Hey, don't rage quit bro here, bringing you an update on the evolution of my cast when damage taken walking simulator. In this video I'll be going over the tool that I made for those wanting to try this build but are running into issues, the upgrades I made on a couple of items, how to craft your own ward based items, and some common FAQ that I get asked a lot. First, let's talk about this tool I made. Simply input your character's values in the green boxes for life, chaos res, ward with Flask active, and what your cooldown time is on your cast when damage taken. If you don't know where you can see your cooldown, simply mouse over any of your skills in the lower right of your skill bar, and in the upper right hand corner of that skill, it will tell you what the cooldown is. The tool will output what the max level of regular and divergent cast when damage taken is that you can use, as well as some basic information about your regen and damage taken. Additionally, I have included a quick reference chart for determining how you can make your summoned skeletons last exactly for the duration of your cast when damage taken cooldown. All of this is on a Google Sheet I'll link in the description. I have restricted access for modification so that nobody breaks my equations, so you'll need to download your own copy in order to enter these values for your character. Next, let's talk about Flask changes. I have added a third Flask to the build, Overflowing Chalice. This is essentially granting me 40% increased damage from the base of a Sulfur Flask for about 15 out of every 20 seconds, with no downside. To make this work, I got a 100% increased charges gained by other flasks roll, and put use when charges reach full for the enchant. Additionally, in order for this to work, I did have to change the Ulrath enchant to reused at the end of this flask's effect. Next is another slight change to Ulras. I put a 28% hillock craft on it, increasing the total duration, which lessens the duration required to hit our target duration of 10 seconds and allowing the trader to proc twice. As mentioned in the previous video, Ulras with a 20% flask you need 67% total duration, and with 28% flask you only need 57% increased duration. Your total flask duration can be viewed on your character sheet on the miscellaneous tab. This change allows for a few options, though I went with lessening the burden on the belt. This means I am still taking the two 5 passive duration clusters, which give me 44% duration, making it so we need 13% additional duration. I went with the belt with a T1 CDR roll and reduced charges used, with an open suffix. This allows me to bench craft duration, which we can get up to 15% on. This was the cheapest option I could think of for getting all 3 mods for suffixes that we want. While we are on the CDR topic, I also self-made a pair of boots, which is good enough for now, but could use some more ward in the ideal scenario. But as I am at 1665 ward with Flask active, it's good enough for me. It's fairly simple to make these boots, and I'll explain the process next. We'll start with any random eye level 75 plus hunter-based boots and alteration spam until you hit a single influence mod of Tailwind. Next, we'll need a pair of runic sabatons, and I believe with eye level 84 plus, though I couldn't find a ward eye level crafting table, so I'm assuming it's like energy shield, and in order to hit a T1% roll, you'll need eye level 84. If the boots don't already have a Crusader influence, just buy a Crusader Exalted Orb and slam it on there to get the influence. I chaos spammed until I hit a single influence mod of T1 CDR. After having the 2 bases, simply use an Awakener's Orb on the Hunter boot to take the Tailwind mod, and then click on our Runic Sabatons to put it there. This will reforge the Sabaton so it has both mods with up to 3 random prefixes and up to 1 random suffix. From here, a few things could happen, and assuming you didn't get super lucky and get a GG item, here's a couple of scenarios. In the first scenario, the boots will have filled the suffix with something. If you needed this suffix for res or attributes, you're using a nulling orb and hoping it doesn't take off the CDR or Tailwind, and if it does, you have to start over. Assuming the suffix that is rolled is okay with you, we'll proceed. If the boots have no open prefix here, you'll want to use the harvest bench for reforge keep suffixes. If the boots do have an open prefix, use the regular bench mod for suffixes can't be changed, then use the harvest craft bench for reforge defense, defense more common, and this will increase our chances for getting a decent ward roll. Rinse and repeat these two options until you have the boots you want. In the second scenario, you have an open suffix after the Awakener orb. If there is also an open prefix, put multi-mod on the suffix, and then suffixes can't be changed as the prefix, and continue with the previously mentioned methods of reforge defense, defense more common, or reforge keep suffixes as needed. If there's no open prefix in this scenario, I'd start with just a dummy suffix bench craft and do a reforge keep suffix. If you do not put a dummy suffix on prior to doing the reforge keep suffix, what happens is the roll will say, okay, these two suffixes can't be changed, and now I'll randomly put on a combination of the remaining 3 prefix, 1 suffix. So your suffix could fill up. Keep using the reforge keep suffix until you have an open prefix as well, then switch the suffix bench to multi-mod and repeat the aforementioned steps. For me personally, I didn't need the res or attributes on the boots, and I got a life regen roll from the Awakener orb, and this was good enough for me. Now before moving on to the next item upgrade, let's go over what getting CDR on these items can do for us and how to set this up. With having any amount of CDR, we'll need to switch our 2 dust setup slightly, changing from a combined 57% to 58%. Next, depending on what your cooldown for the cast when damage taken is, we'll need to adjust our less duration support for the skeletons in order for both our cast when damage taken cooldown and our skeleton duration to match each other. Here's a table to demonstrate the most common values, which as I mentioned previously, is also included in the tool I made. Next, I was able to get an unwavering stance chest, which then allowed me to get the damage penetration enchant on the boots instead of the stun immunity one. Next, let's talk about our helmet. This was sort of a gamble, but not really all that expensive of one, and pretty easy to do. Just spam dense fossils on an eye level 85 plus runic crown until you have a good ward roll and ideally 2 open suffixes. In my case, I got a semi-decent res roll and 2 open suffix. Next, I put on the bench mod for max minion life, not because I want this, but because I want to block it. Looking at the weighting tables for Warlord's influence mods on helmets, and if we discount the minion life roll, the total weighting is 3,250 for all rolls combined. There are a couple mods that I think would be good for us, crit multi, and nearby enemies have minus to fire res. These 2 mods total 1,750 of the 3,250 weight, and by simply Warlord Exalt slamming, we have a 53.8% chance to hit one of these 2 mods. Now sure, we could take the more expensive route, similar to the boots, though there wasn't really a second suffix that I wanted on another influence, so this method was good enough for me. Finish it off by replacing that minion life benchcraft with the res or attribute of your choice, and if you don't need either, item rarity is a decent option as well. Next, let's talk about skill gems. I wanted to try and min-max the damage I dealt, so I upgraded the cast when damage taken setups and accompanying gems where I could. In my cast when damage taken setup for the gloves, I have a level 9 cast when damage taken and a level 12 anomalous forbidden right. The damage difference here is minor, but I like getting extra damage for free. In the helmet, I have a level 20 divergent cast when damage taken setup for desecrate, and by having this a higher level, when the corpses explode from volatile dead, they do more damage, as the level of the corpses Desecrate creates are a higher level. I did link this 4th link, and I frequently have phase run here. I have a minor change that I make for Sirus as well, to help reduce the human error portion of stepping on those lightning degen circles and killing myself. These circles stop Recoup from working, but it will start working again immediately after stepping off. However, while on one of these, as we aren't recouping, Forbidden Right will damage us in addition to Righteous Fire. By removing Righteous Fire, this lowers the amount of damage we're taking and increases our chance of surviving. So what I do is move Phase Run down to the gloves, taking out Righteous Fire, and binding Phase Run to left click. This will require a white socket in the gloves where the Phase Run and Righteous Fire would go. Next, I'll put another damage dealing gem in Phase Run's place in the helmet, and I chose Cremation, as it too explodes corpses for % life and also has a little volcano that spews fireballs for more damage. This strategy does not work for Maven Laser, as when you get hit by it, it stops Recoup from working for 10 seconds. In the ideal world, I would also have a level 21 cast when damage taken setup for both the weapon and the helmet, but alas, I am 0 for 4 on corrupting them to get that +1 level. For Pantheons, I did make a slight adjustment and I'm no longer using Soul of Lunaris, and I'm using Arakali instead, as sometimes when I had Lunaris, it would mess with my damage proc on my 6-link chest setup. I am still taking Ralakash for the Miner. The passive skill tree is pretty much the same. In the next section, I'd like to review a few common questions and answers. Question: why do both my skills on the 6-link chest only proc on every other rotation? Answer: this is highly likely to be a damage taken issue. Assuming you have no armor and don't have any chaos res on your gear, your HP pool is probably too low. Use the tool I made to see what level you can make your cast when damage taken setups given your current life and chaos res. Question: why do I have to weapon swap multiple times for the setup to start working? Answer: because you don't have enough mana recoup. After the first weapon swap, we take 1260 damage from the Spectral Spirits to proc Forbidden Rite and Skeletons. Forbidden Rite will proc the higher damage setups, which expends all of your available mana. After this first loop finishes, 0.25 seconds later, the first batch of Skeletons dies, and you deal damage to yourself. This would typically proc the Forbidden Rite again, though you don't have enough mana to cast it because you haven't recouped enough mana in that 0.25 window, thus killing the loop. As recoup is over 4 seconds, weapon swapping a second or possibly a third time within that 4-second window, there is typically enough recoup to stay rolling. Question: why does my iron flask keep breaking? Answer: you didn't follow my instructions in the first video. Question: why do I kill myself every time I try to get the loop started? Answer: your reward total is probably too low, and Forbidden Rite is killing you before the recoup mechanic has time to ramp. Your target ward should be 1600 plus. Question: how is Righteous Fire not damaging you? Answer: recoup is insane on this build. I have about 4.9k life recoup per second after Forbidden Rite and Righteous Fire are accounted for. Use the tool I made to see what your life recoup is. Question: why does one of the 2 skills in the chest not proc properly? Answer: as one of them procs, we would know that it's not a damage taken issue, thus telling us it's most likely, and I have yet to see an alternative scenario, you don't have enough mana to cast it. The easiest way to confirm this is just by taking our aura off, or by removing some of the support gems in the chest. Question: why does my cast when damage taken loop stop working when I level up the gems? Answer: you aren't taking enough damage to proc the new higher level cast when damage taken requirement. Use the tool I made to see what level you can make your gems. And that about wraps up this video, and again, I'll leave you guys with a Maven kill. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.
Is an illusion, everlasting fire. Die.
Real American dollars.
The prize piece comes to join
My collection. Pain will be returned tenfold. Space aligns. Behold my collection.
I will have what I want. Death will not be an escape.
I need more mana.
Still. Why?
Resistance will be punished. Time controls. Scurry. Scurry.
My irritation is growing. This will not be an escape. Scurry, scurry! How?
Stop resisting. Reality bends. Punishment inescapable.
Arrogant toy! This will not be an escape. Scurry, scurry! A cascade of pain! Ah. Stand still!